We briefly mentioned it on the Denver International Airport episode, so y'all should have seen it coming. That's right, we got some dumbs for you. Deep underground military bases. So imagine this, the year's 1950. It's a few years into the Cold War, and boom, people start getting paranoid, worrying about fucking nuclear holocausts.
Yep.
So deep underground military bases started being created for three major reasons. One of them was to protect nuclear arsenals, right? They wanted to buy themselves time to be able to launch a counteroffensive if nukes got shot at us. They wanted to have that buffer period to be able to shoot back. Right? Conduct experiments, right? Everyone knows, especially here in Nevada, we used to have a bunch of freaking experiments and nuclear bombs and stuff like that get tested out here around Area 51. So what did they do? They started doing things underground. The reason why is because they got worried during the Cold War that the Soviets started using like satellites to do images and to kind of spy on them. So they said, how do we get around this? Let's fucking do our shit underground. Right?
Yep.
So they move underground. That's one reason. Or second reason, I should say. The third one was to try and continue the government ensuring some sort of like stability and continuity. So thus brings us to the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. So this is located in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Was home to NORAD for over 40 years. If you don't know, NORAD stands for North American Aerospace Defense Command. They basically monitored everything in the fucking sky. So that way, if like nukes and shit started getting shot at us, they would have an idea and they'd be able to be like, hey, duck and cover, start shooting some shit back. Let's go.
Find the trajectory and shoot it out.
Yes. So again, it served its purpose for about 40 years. And then in 2006, they shut it down for being cost inefficient. Because despite the fact that this was built 2,000 feet inside of a fucking mountain,
2,000 feet.
The rated capacity for what this bunker could withstand was the same as the actual NORAD building that was on top of the ground next to the base, the basement. So the basement of that building and this bunker 2,000 feet in the mountain could both withstand the same nuke that was rated back in like the 60s.
Yeah. And one was 200 feet and one was 2,000 feet.
Yeah. So they were like, all right, well, what the fuck do we need this for? Again, it was made so early that it was made to withstand a bomb in the 60s. Obviously, shit's a lot stronger now. Little different times.
True.
So basically, it got outdated. They shut it down. And that didn't last too long. It was renovated and then reopened again in 2011 for the newest branch of our military forces, which is the U.S. Space Force.
Yeah, Space Force.
So
I feel like they run around looking like Power Rangers or something.
So they found some reason to reopen it. And one of the things that this base is still good for is that it could withstand an EMP attack. So if need be, it still has some sort of attribute to it to where it's like, all right, even though it's old, this motherfucker still could get shit done.
And that probably has some effect because of how deep in the mountain it is. Because we all know technology is key now. So yeah, an EMP can screw some people
Send us back to the Stone Age.
Yeah.
So there's also a place called North Bay, Ontario in Canada. And they had a similar base designed the same way, and they called it the Hull. They were creative. And it actually opened 3 years before the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. And it was designed to withstand a nuke that was 267 times stronger than the one that hit Hiroshima.
Damn.
So that motherfucker was done right.
Yeah.
And then the only reason that they made that base was because of the geography of where they landed. Right? If the Soviet Union decided, you know what, fuck it, let's send some bombers over and drop some bombs,
they're close.
They would fly over Canada to get to us.
Right.
If we wanted to intercept them, we would fly over Canada to intercept them. So basically, they were worried about Canada becoming like a nuclear fallout ground for all the warfare that if it would have happened. Another base that's here, and there's three main ones in the U.S. And that's what we're gonna cover. It's the Raven Rock Mountain Complex in Pennsylvania, also known as Site R. This one basically serves as an underground Pentagon. Has all the same 5 branches that you would find inside of the Pentagon, inside this motherfucker. And again, this one was made because they developed a continuity of government plan, and it was basically just to try and keep order amongst the government in case all shit hit the fan.
So they would take all the high end peoples in the government down there in case
Yep,
something happens, and that's what they'll handle.
exactly.
Have their meetings and decide who the fuck's dying.
And it was also there was one time only that they actually utilized it, and it was actually during the 9/11 attacks. They sent Dick Cheney there with other branch members, so that way, if something were to have happened, they would have again that continuity plan put into effect.
Yep. Dick Cheney.
Third one. This one is called the Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center. And I think this one was actually the oldest out of the three, if I'm not mistaken. Or this one and the Denver one might have been, the Colorado Springs one might have been around the same time. So this one is in Virginia, and it was basically designed to it was designed to basically take care of not only essential members but like top tier organization people as well. And I don't mean like the 1% wealthy and famous. Like this isn't a fucking fallout bunker for the rich and famous. It's nothing like that. And this was designed for like scientists, doctors,
People
engineers.
That will progress. So some more like a I Am Legend type of.
Yeah. So like if we had to restart from scratch, we'd have at least the right minds and people with the education to kind of keep us going. So that's what this was designed for. The top side of this facility, because all these bases, they have a top and they have a bottom, right? They have some buildings on top and they got some shit underneath. The top side of the facilities are ran by FEMA, believe it or not. So wow. I mean, they've been out there for a while now. This was created in 1954, and it was designed for long-term underground stays. So basically for a severe nuclear fallout, so people could survive. It was equipped with a hospital, a crematorium. It had a water treatment plant. It had a dining and rec areas. It had a TV and radio studio inside of it. It also had a sewage treatment plant, and it also had electrical facilities. So this one was really literally designed so that if need be, people could hunker down. Yeah, it basically was. It was huge. Yeah. I think they said something that it was about like 780,000 square miles underneath ground. Like that's a lot of space. Yeah. So and again, this one had one instance where they actually utilized it and activated it as well. It was back in 1965. There was a transmission line that went down at Niagara Falls, and it had caused this cascading effect that caused like 30 million people to go without power for like half a day. And so they ended up saying, all right, let's test this bitch out, get down here. And they did a good job on keeping this base hidden. This base remained hidden for 20 years. The only reason that people started noticing it is when in 1974 there was a TWA flight number 514 that crashed close to it, and it killed all the people on the flight. So obviously, when planes crash, they go and they look out all the wreckages and stuff like that. So kind of like crazy that they were able to keep this big ass base.
That's kind of creepy.
Hidden for 20 years. Nobody saw it. So it makes you wonder what other like underground bases.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably dozens of them around. And not only just here in the States. I'm sure there's some all over the world. But my biggest question is, what are they using them for now?
So they still hold their purposes. For all the same. Well, I mean, the only one is the Cheyenne complex one.
Yeah.
What does the U.S. Space Force actually do right now?
That's all they're doing.
Like, are they developing lasers and shit? I don't know. I don't fucking know.
They're the Men in Black.
They're developing the mind swiping light, so that way they could just erase our fucking memory and go back to us not knowing what Area 51 is.
Right.
Area 51, it was hidden for a long time too. It was always like a myth. In fact, when they actually admitted that Area 51 existed was in 2013.
Yeah.
When there was the Freedom to Know Act or whatever the hell it was called. So that was kind of, they went a long time with people knowing, but like not having like the solid, yes, it's there.
And I guess you could kind of consider that a DUMBs too, right? Because it's underground.
A large portion of it is, yeah. So it's got, well, like I was saying before, all these bases have above ground facilities and underground facilities.
That shit look like a city, bro. You ever see it at night?
I have not. I know you mentioned it before that like you could see lights, but you can't. Like, you're not close enough to tell what the highway is.
From the highway, if you take that turn off to go to it, probably 500 feet. There's a checkpoint, like military checkpoint, where they're letting people in and letting people out, and you can see probably 3 miles away. You see like just a shit ton of lights.
Damn.
Yeah.
So, these Fallout shelters, these bunkers, there's been video games. The show Fallout came out also based off that video game. And it's just funny to see how like a lot of the stuff that they have, like with the blast doors and stuff like that, it's all very similar to what you've already seen.
Yeah.
So somebody out there was like, you know what? I'm not going to leak this idea, but I'm going to leak this shit.
And I mean, lately we have all this robot shit coming out, right? So I'm a firm believer after watching iRobot. They say art imitates life. It's true. These people come up with these things. It's already in play. It was already here. It's not just random, just a thought or an idea. Nah.
It is funny because now that you mention it with movies, because if you go through and look at a lot of like old movies, some of them are relevant today because the shit that they had way the fuck back then in those movies that was just an idea, a concept, is here
cars,
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's history. That's
cell
life.
phones. They had all these cool gadgets to communicate with, talking through their watch.
I'm still waiting for the hoverboard from Back to the Future.
Well,
I'm still waiting for that fucking thing to come out.
It's coming.
So I can get my wobbly ass on it.
It's coming. Yeah, so.
But there's bunkers and underground military bases all over the fucking world. Like Iran has even an underground military air base now. The whole air base is underground. That's where they store their planes. They have a fucking side of the fucking mountain that they shoot them bitches out so they can just take flight, and that's it. They store everything underground now,
like,
too.
If you went down there, like what would be going on? Would it just be vacant and dusty? Abandoned, or like will you go down there and it's like
the ones that aren't in use?
Yeah.
So a lot of the ones that aren't in use anymore are actually getting bought up by wealthy people for like Fallout purposes. And then there's places like New Zealand where they're actually going and getting them made as like a Fallout place. There's some tech savvy guy who actually did that. He went and he built one in New Zealand, got a New Zealand passport. So if shit ever hits the fan, he said, I'm not going to stay in the U.S.
He said, I'm done.
I'm going to go to fucking New Zealand and hide in my bunker.
Yep.
And they're making them extravagant where they have like the artificial lighting, all the same shit you would have seen if you watched the episode of the show Fallout. That's how they're making them. They're making them so that you can walk out in an area and you think you're outdoors because it has artificial lighting and shit like that made to look like you're outside in the sun. Like it's
like
a trip.
The Venetian.
Yeah.
Yeah. You walking through the Venetian, it looks like it's daytime all the time.
Yep. Well, no, and they put them on timers so that way it'll gradually turn to nighttime and shit, just like you see it in the show. So it's funny because again, you're seeing it on TV, you're seeing it in movies, you see it in video games, and it's actually getting done.
Yep.
So I'm a firm believer that movies tell us a lot more. Okay.
So pay attention.
Pay attention to them sons of bitches. But that's all I got, man. You got anything you want to add?
No, pretty good.
All right. Well, then, you know the fucking deal. Subscribe, share, show you care. We out.